Welcome back to Air Quality Matters and One Take. One Take, my take on a paper or report on air quality, ventilation and the built environment. One Take in that it's, in one take and tries to summarise for you a scientific perspective on something interesting in, usually 10 minutes or less, because who has the time to read all these amazing documents, right? This week, we're diving into a paper that really gets to the heart of a modern day puzzle in our field. It's from the International Journal of Human-Computer Interaction, and it's titled Understanding Behavioural Intention to Use of Air Quality Monitoring Solutions with Emphasis on Technology Readiness. Now, that's a mouthful, I know, but what it's really asking is a profoundly important question. We have all these air quality monitoring apps and sensors available to the public. But what actually makes someone decide to use one? And more importantly, what makes them keep using it? It's not about the hardware or the code. It's about the human psychology behind the technology. And the answers, as you'll see, are not what you might expect. So let's set the scene. The problem of air pollution is, of course, massive and well documented. We talk about it all the time. And in response, we've seen a boom in technology designed to make this invisible threat visible to the average person. We have mobile apps, low-cost sensors, and all sorts of solutions that promise to tell us what's in the air we're breathing. But having a tool and using a tool are two very different things. A hammer is useless if it just sits in the toolbox. And an air quality monitoring app is useless if it just sits on page 4 of your phone's home screen, never to be opened. You know the ones I'm talking about. We all have them, right? This is the gap the researchers wanted to explore. They moved beyond the technical performance of these systems to ask, what are the human factors that drive adoption? To do this, they used a well-established framework in technology studies called UT2. It's really just a structured way of looking at a user's decision-making process, and it effectively asks questions like, is it useful? That's called performance expectancy. Is it easy to use? Effort expectancy. And are my friends and family using it or encouraging me to? That's social influence. But, and this is crucial, this model also includes more subtle, more human elements. Things like hedonic motivation, a fancy term for a simple idea. Is using this app actually enjoyable or fun? It also considers things like habit. Has checking the app just become an automatic part of your daily routine, like checking the weather? The researchers took this solid framework and added their own ingredient, technology readiness. This is a concept that looks at an individual's overall mindset towards technology. Are you generally optimistic or innovative? Always keen to try the next new thing? Or do you find new tech a bit uncomfortable or worry about security and privacy implications? They put all of this into a survey and they got responses from over 370 users of an air quality monitoring app in Indonesia, a region where, like many developing nations, air pollution is a significant and growing concern. So what did they find? Well, some of the results were exactly what you'd predict. People were more likely to use the app if they believed it would perform well and be useful. This makes perfect sense, of course. They were also more likely to use it if it became a habit and if people in their social circle were using it. No huge surprises there either. But here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. The single most pivotal factor driving a person's intention to use the app was not how useful it was, nor what their friends thought, but hedonic motivation, this enjoyment factor. Let that sink in for a minute. For a tool designed to provide critical health and environmental data, the most powerful driver for its adoption was whether or not people found the experience of using it to be fun or engaging. It's a profound insight. It suggests that dry, data-heavy, purely functional interfaces, no matter how accurate, is likely to fail in the mass market. And just as interesting is what didn't matter. The researchers found that effort expectancy, how easy the app was to use, had no significant impact on whether someone intended to use it. Now that's a real head-scratcher. What does it mean? The paper suggests a couple of possibilities. Perhaps the app they studied was just so well designed that ease of use was a given, so it wasn't a deciding factor. Or, and I think this could be likely, it suggests that when it comes to something as important as air quality, users are more focused on the app's performance and overall experience than they are minor learning curves, for example. What it does and how it feels trumps how easy it is. The other non-factors were facilitating conditions, having the right resources, and price value. Though to be fair, the app was free, so price really wasn't a variable to begin with. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this mean for us, for developers and policymakers? First, it's a clear signal to anyone designing these tools. You cannot just be a data utility. You have to design an experience. This is where fields like user experience design, gamification, and clear, compelling data visualization become absolutely critical. An app that just shows a list of pollutant numbers is likely to be ignored. An app that presents that same data in an engaging, intuitive, and maybe even beautiful way is the one that will get people to actually use it. Second, the finding on technology readiness is a huge deal. It tells us that one-size-fits-all approach to promoting these technologies just simply won't work. A person who is naturally optimistic about tech will be drawn in by new features and possibilities. Someone who is more hesitant or worried about privacy needs a completely different approach. One focused on trust, security, and simplicity. We need to segment the audience and understand that people come to this technology from very different places psychologically. So to wrap this up, the paper paints a very clear picture. If we want people to actively monitor and engage with their personal air quality, the technology has to do more than just work. It has to connect with them at a human level. It has to be effective, yes, but it must also be engaging, habitual, and crucially, an enjoyable experience. The study essentially shows that the path to better public health through technology is paved not just with good data, but with good design and one understanding of human psychology. Of course, this study was focused on a specific user group in Indonesia, and the authors rightly note that more research is needed to see how these factors play out in different cultures and contexts. But as a starting point, it's a powerful and clarifying insight. It's also a stark reminder that even in a world of hard data, sensors, and science, it's often the softer human elements, enjoyment, habit, and emotion, that are often the final gatekeeper to widespread adoption. And sometimes making something a little more engaging is the most effective and scientific approach of all. Thanks for listening. This is this week's episode of One Take. These episodes aren't possible without our sponsors, so thanks a million as always to Safe Traces and Imbiot for making it possible. See you next week.